All right, today we're jumping headfirst into a really fascinating and pretty intense debate I found brewing on the Planet Calypso game forum. It's a whole saga about a virtual world, what players are calling a plague of ghost players, and one very simple suggestion that is pretty much the entire community at each other's throats.
So, picture this. You log into your favorite online game, you're all set for an adventure, but something just feels wrong. The world is full of other players' avatars, but they're moving like weird puppets, just fighting endlessly with nobody actually at the keyboard. And that brings us to the big question for today. What on earth happens when a game's players aren't really playing?
Well, this problem has gotten so bad that players are actually calling it a plague of ghost players. It's this feeling that their virtual world is being haunted, not by some in-game monsters, but by the automated characters of other users. And yeah, they are not happy about it. I mean, you can just feel the frustration in this quote from a player named Rocket192. They're not just complaining about some minor bug. They're painting this picture of a totally broken world. A world literally littered with these unattended avatars that are just getting in the way and, as they put it, creating a terrible look for the game.
Okay, so to understand how we got here, we need to look at a key game mechanic called shared loot. Basically, it's a system that lets a bunch of players attack the same enemy, or mob, and everybody gets a piece of the pie, a chance at some rewards. You can see how it was probably meant to get people to cooperate, but it's had a pretty massive unintended side effect.
And here's the absolute heart of the problem. Because of shared loot, these ghost players, these unattended avatars, can just tag any enemy they see, even one you're already fighting, and they still get rewards. They are effectively farming loot with zero effort, clogging up the game world, and completely ruining the experience for people who are actually trying to play.
So you're probably thinking, why not just ban the cheaters? Well, that's where things get really complicated. A huge part of the problem is that the community itself can't even agree on what cheating is in this situation. The line between playing the game and breaking the rules is surprisingly blurry.
And this quote from Mortimer Hotshot just perfectly captures that confusion. They're genuinely asking, what even counts as a bot in this game? See, the game has some built-in features that sort of allow for unattended play, so where did the developers actually draw the line? No one seems to know for sure.
So the terms you hear are botting or using a macro. And we're not always talking about some complex piece of hacking software. The game's combat is so simple that something as basic as a keyboard script that just presses one key over and over again is enough to let an avatar hunt for hours and hours, all while the player is completely away from their computer.
And this slide right here shows that gray area perfectly, right? Is leaving your computer while your character finishes, say, a 2-hour crafting job. Is that botting? Most players would say no, that's just part of the game. But what about setting up that simple one-key press loop to hunt while you're at work? Most players would say, yeah, that's cheating. This nuance makes it incredibly hard for the developer, MindArc, to actually enforce any rules.
So, faced with this total mess, the player who started this whole conversation, Rocket192, comes forward with a fix. It's simple, it's pretty dramatic, and they believe it could solve the entire problem in one fell swoop. The suggestion is just this: get rid of shared loot, at least for the common enemies. The idea is to make it so only the player who does the most damage, or maybe gets the first hit, gets the reward. The logic is pretty clear. If these unattended bots are just mindlessly shooting everything, a real, active player could just swoop in, do more damage, and take the loot, making the whole botting strategy completely useless.
But this is where the whole thing explodes. Instead of everyone agreeing, this seemingly smart solution just triggers an absolute firestorm of controversy. It kicks off what we're calling the Great Loot Debate.
So the debate really boils down to two sides. You've got the pro argument, which says, yes, do this. It'll punish the botters financially and make what they're doing totally worthless. But then you have the con argument, which is a huge warning. This won't stop the bots, and it's going to bring back this old toxic behavior called kill stealing, which hurts everybody, especially the legitimate players.
And here's that pro-removal argument from the player themselves. Rocket192 thinks that not only will bots lose money, PED is the in-game currency, because they'll get out-damaged, but get this, if their automated character keeps shooting an enemy that's already been claimed by someone else, that could be seen as harassment, which would give the developers clear grounds to finally start banning them.
But then you have this really powerful counterpoint from player Detritus 2.0. They're basically saying, hold on, this change won't stop the bots. What if the bot just has better gear than you and outdamages you? All this does is bring back the nightmare of kill stealing, making the game even worse for the very same active players it's supposed to be helping.
And this personal story from player Arielos really drives that point home. They remember a time before shared loot, when another player literally threatened them just for hunting in the same general area. For them, shared loot isn't about helping bots at all. It's a feature that's absolutely necessary to stop real players from fighting and harassing each other. It keeps the peace.
You know, as you read deeper into the debate, it becomes really clear that for a lot of players, this isn't just about shared loot anymore. The community seems to believe the problem is way, way bigger than just this one single mechanic.
And the players, they have plenty of other ideas. They're asking for stuff like private combat zones, for game content that actually takes some skill to beat, for events that you can't just complete while you're asleep. They want challenging group stuff again. But honestly, the biggest thing they're asking for? A clear, official statement from the developers on what the rules actually are.
So when you boil it all down, this isn't really a debate about loot systems. It's a debate about the entire soul of the game. Players feel like the core design itself is rewarding this low-effort, automated play instead of active, skillful participation. They don't just want a rule changed, they want the entire culture of the game to change.
And that leaves us with this final and I think pretty provocative question. This whole digital civil war really comes down to a fundamental issue that faces any online community. Who's ultimately responsible for its culture? Is it the players who live there every day, or is it the developers who built the world in the first place? It's a tough one, and definitely something we're thinking about. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.